Hello, fellow Orexians. Today I want to talk about what does Planetside Arena offer. What you're going to be watching here in the background is the glory of Planetside 2. The chaotic clash that is large-scale, combined arms combat. And I want you to really breathe it in and think back to the battles you have had that are reminiscent of this one. That just give you those moments of, whoa, this is epic. Now, admittedly, this doesn't happen all this time in Planetside 2. We'd like to say that, right? Because that's the big selling point, that's how we get more people. We want to let everyone know about those epic battles. But the reality is, especially these days with the lower populations, it's the outlier rather than the norm. And more often than not, the battle flow breaks down to the point where it's tough to generate these epic clashes in the open fields. But they are still there, and that is what Planetside 2 offers. Something unique, something epic, something amazing that you can't get anywhere else. And that's what's kept it going all this time. And it keeps it going in spite of all sorts of setbacks. And everyone out there will have in their own mind what they think the biggest setback was. Whether it was performance issues, or if it was the Pro Sabian accounts, or if it was the PS4 port, or if it was the Combined Arms Initiative, or when a whole bunch of the developers were pulled off to start working on H1Z1 more. Even with all these setbacks, Planetside has persevered, and it is still carrying on after 6 years, which for a live service game is a good run in this day and age. And the servers won't be shutting down anytime soon. So all sorts of things come to mind when I think about what Planetside 2 offers, and in that same vein, I want to turn my mind to Planetside Arena. What does it offer? And I really start to struggle when I think about it. I want to give Planetside Arena a fair shake. I want to give it a chance. And this exercise in my mind is the same exercise I'm sure a lot of you have already done in trying to decide, do I buy this game when it comes out? Do I pre-order this game? Do I ignore it and just stick with Planetside 2? Or do I say, okay, look, the successor to Planetside 2 is not what I'm interested in. As much as I love this franchise, it's time to throw in the towel because it's just going in a different direction. So Planetside Arena offers Battle Royale, which to me has two problems with it. A, that's something you can get from every other AAA publisher out there. And B, Battle Royale is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from what you get from Planetside 2. So I don't quite understand the offering. The first thing I think is, oh, it's in the Planetside franchise, they're offering it to Planetside players. And if that's what they're doing, it's a terrible idea. Why would you offer a Battle Royale to Planetside players? That's not what they want. And then people immediately say, well, no, it's not for Planetside players, it's for Battle Royale fans. And that's a legitimate argument. Even though it says Planetside in it, unfortunately it's not really intended for Planetside players. They're just using a name, an IP that they own that's recognizable, that's really not intended for their existing user base. Let's go there. Let's say they went with this idea that the next installment of Planetside, which is effectively Planetside 4, is not meant for people that are already fans of Planetside. Seems weird, but Planetside was a pretty big evolution from the first game in the series, Tonrus, so maybe it's not that huge of a stretch. So in that case, the only thing I can say about Planetside Arena is no. Just no. Look, I love Planetside 2, but its polish does not stand up to a game like Fortnite, a game like PUBG, a game like Call of Duty, a game like Titanfall. Like, we can all be real here for a moment. We appreciate just how ambitious it is and understand that's difficult to do, so we live with a lot of its shortcomings. But if you're a Battle Royale fan looking for the next game, you don't need to deal with any of those shortcomings. You've got a massive range of Battle Royales that you can just pick and hone in on exactly what you like on them. If you want a beautiful, realistic world, you can go check out PUBG. If your rig is a little bit of a piece, you can go play something that runs easy like Fortnite. Call of Duty Blackout has super solid mechanics. And now you have Apex Legends that just sets the bar for squad play so high, all the other Battle Royales are going to have to react and adapt to improve themselves. So, trying to figure out the niche for Planetside Arena amongst all those terrific titles, there's nothing that really comes to mind for me. The Echoes of Amarish is fine, but it's not better than Vikendi. It's not better than Miramar. It's not better than King's Canyon. it can't offer a more beautiful world. It offers no shotguns, which is something nice, but all the other games other than Fortnite really have solved shotguns. They're not the meta in PUBG or Blackout because you can keep yourself at distance. You can outrange shotguns easy enough. Fortnite has decided with construction they are very firmly part of the meta, and so be it. You can decide whether you like shotguns or not. The same goes for Apex Legends. While shotguns are very powerful, if you don't want to play them, you can easily avoid them and position yourself accordingly to defeat shotguns easily. The whole no shotgun thing doesn't get the game very far, in my opinion. And the reality is one of the other selling points of the game is what backs the game into a corner where they really can't allow shotguns, and that is the jump jets. On any class, the jump jets would make shotguns 10 times worse than any other battle royale, and the ambusher jump jets that the assault class gets would make shotguns just completely unbalanced. There'd be no way to balance shotguns and that ability at the same time. And that's kind of something we have in Planetside 2 right now, where we've got ambusher jump jets running around with shotguns, but that's sort of a whole nother discussion. So yes, it's nice that Planetside Arena offers shotgun-less battle royale, but the reality is, in majority of battle royales out there, shotguns already aren't a problem. You're not going to have flocks of people coming from PUBG saying, oh, thank goodness, finally we got rid of the shotguns. So kind of segueing from that, let's talk about those jump jets that make it impossible to balance shotguns. That is another piece of the puzzle that Planetside Arena offers that is very different from other battle royales. And what jump jets basically come down to is combat mobility. Fights are linear, you can approach from different angles, and it solves that whole annoyance of, oh my gosh, how do I get up this darn rock? The thing is, the other battle royales have already found creative ways to solve movement. The original PUBG never intended to make movement easy. That's part of its allure. Fights stay linear, you can sort of hem your enemy in, you can beat them with positioning and controlling the terrain. Fortnite went the opposite direction and added tons of movement, but it did in creative ways. You've got balloons, you've got rifts, you've got jump pads, you've got grappling hooks. The building aspect of Fortnite gives you a lot of verticality. It adds the movement, it adds the mobility. And then the next evolution, Apex Legends. It brings wall climbing, it brings sliding, it brings faster run speed without weapons. So no, it doesn't do it like Planetside Arena with jump jets. These games still make really interesting combat mobility. So going back to Planetside Arena, yes, I like the jump jets. But no, the reality is it doesn't really set the game apart from the pack. The jetpacks are nice, they're just not creative. On the topic of mobility, let's move on from combat mobility to just moving around the map. PUBG, especially on the larger maps, suffers from the 30-minute run simulator, where you may or may not see anyone until the final ring. Planetside Arena takes cue from H1Z1 PS4, which has a very fast-moving, in that case it's a gas cloud, but basically a fast-moving paint field. Keeps the matches faster, and you gotta move to the middle quicker, so hopefully you bump into more people sooner. And so you can stay ahead of the field, you get a personal vehicle. And again, I feel like a broken record at this point. You can see where it's going. The vehicles are nice. I'm glad it's not a run simulator, and I'm glad you're not having to search around the map hoping you find a UAS. But, again, the other battle royales have solved the run simulator. PUBG made smaller maps. Fortnite has introduced so many ways to traverse the map quicker, between the already mentioned rifts and the fact that they've added zip lines all over so you can get around easily. And Apex Legends has just continued improving upon that model. It ignores vehicles entirely. It stuck with the smaller map, it kept going with the zip lines that Fortnite has already proved, and it added its own version of the rifts to get around the map. So the vehicles in Planetside 2 are something. There's sort of this, it feels like a cops and robbers vibe where you're trying to chase people around in their vehicles. And then you gotta hop off your vehicle and try to shoot people before they start up their Tempest and try to shoot away again. Or you throw an orbital strike grenade, and that forces everyone to just get out on their vehicles and reposition on the map. So yes, the vehicles are good, but the problem that they solve has already been solved by other battle royales in more creative ways. I feel like the vehicles stay rooted in a necessary gimmick rather than make it up to a selling point for Planetside Arena. Okay, so we can sit there and we can hash over the battle royale all day long. Love it, hate it, the feedback I have received from Planetside 2 players is that most people hate it. They play Planetside 2 because they aren't really interested in the myriad of Battle Royale games out there. So those people say, hey, it's Planetside Arena, not Planetside Battle Royale. That's just one of the modes. And to me, I'm like, you're right, but why aren't we playing Massive Clash right now? And the reason we're not playing Massive Clash is because Massive Clash is, I'm not going to say quite an afterthought. They know that if they're releasing a Planetside 2 title, they have to include a Massive Clash mode to at least sort of appease the original base of the franchise. But they're not balancing the weapons around Massive Clash. They're balancing it for Battle Royale. They're not balancing the classes around Massive Clash. They're balancing them for Battle Royale. They're not developing the abilities and tools for Massive Clash. They're developing it for Battle Royale. I guess what I'm getting at here is the news that just came down the pipeline that what the original iteration of Massive Clash will be is really just a 250 versus 250 Battle Royale is not at all surprising to me. So people that are saying, hey, quit talking about Battle Royale, that's not the only game mode, I guess the thing that comes to my mind is I'll see it when I believe it. Like, to make Massive Clash work well, there needs to be 6 months of closed beta testing making that happen. That is a difficult, ambitious thing to do, and there has been zero news that there is serious testing going on with Massive Clash. I didn't hear about any of it from the closed beta testers. I don't think there were the 500 to 1,000 of those even in that phase that you need to test that. It certainly hasn't been part of the paid closed beta test that's going on now. And the reality is we're 10 days after the originally scheduled launch, and we're 10 days away from the rescheduled launch of the game. Sure, there is a secondary launch date after the Founders season, but the Founders season is when the servers are open for business. So that to me is really the new launch date. Giving another window where you can switch it to free-to-play doesn't really affect that in my mind. As far as I can tell, all Massive Clash is basically the equivalent of Fortnite's 50 vs 50. I'm worried it's not even that. Fortnite's mode is at least a kill count, so you're not stuck always retreating back to a lobby every time you die, the huge negative of every Battle Royale. But as far as I can tell, Massive Clash is just a 250 vs 250 Battle Royale in Planetside Arena. And that's max. It will still be lobby-based, and I would be surprised if you could get those numbers in a reasonable time frame. So at any rate, I guess we'll see in 10 days, but I'm not willing to bank on other modes in Planetside Arena. That logic doesn't follow to me. It's got to be show, don't tell, and so far there's been a lot of talk and not a lot of show, which means Planetside Arena is very firmly a Battle Royale game, and the other arena modes are extremely secondary and will only happen if the Battle Royale does well enough at launch. I've seen some discussion on a suggested pivot from the Battle Royale mode to these other modes, the other arena modes, which makes sense to me. I just don't know how you could execute a pivot. You're 10 days away from launch, and at least from the closed beta testing, you don't have the Battle Royale finished yet. There is no time to pivot, and I don't think it's worth buying the game either hoping for a pivot in the future. Saying, oh well, the Battle Royale isn't good, let's just buy it anyways and hope they pivot to something else. I certainly think their intentions are to bring other modes in the future. I just don't think it's worth buying into until you can test those modes out. That means there either has to be future open beta testing when those modes are released that people can at least try them and then decide if they're going to buy for a bit, or that means the game has to go free to play by then so people can just get in and check it out. So guys, on the topic of what Planetside Arena offers, I'd say the jury is still very much out. While it's fun and I enjoy a semi-Planetside 2 Battle Royale, it is not more fun than something like Apex Legends, and it just doesn't bring enough to the table to really define itself as something well beyond any of the other Battle Royales out there in the extremely saturated market. So we covered, hey, it's a Battle Royale, what if I don't like Battle Royale? Then we covered, hey, there's other game modes, but not really. I really don't recommend banking on other game modes until you see other game modes. And to cram the Planetside 2 experience into a lobby shooter would be a very difficult job, and just sticking 250 people versus 250 people in a Battle Royale setting is not achieving that. And until we see any other modes, Planetside Arena should specifically be spoken as a Battle Royale rather than a mix of game modes, including a sort of Planetside 2 experience large-scale combat. And at the end of all of this back and forth, I finally hear, well, you should support Planetside Arena because that'll get us to Planetside 3. And of all the discussions I've heard, that logic makes the least sense to me. Look, Planetside Arena could have easily been Daybreak Games' Diablo Immortal. They did a good job of heading off that effect by making major announcements on the Planetside 2 title. They've promised DirectX 11, they've promised a new continent, which is supposed to drop by the end of 2019, they've promised NS operatives, and they're even going to try to do a spawn system overhaul. Threw out more promises in the last year of Planetside 2 than the prior 3 years. And the reality is on those things is, what do they got to lose? It's do or die for Planetside 2. They either deliver or they don't, and it's kind of like, okay, well, the game was going to die anyways. But it is a good position to put themselves in to avoid a massive eruption of anger from the community when the next installment of Planetside is nothing like Planetside. And they've gone a step further in all of this and even dangled the words of a Planetside 3 out there, which to me is a completely meaningless statement. Of course there's always a possibility of Planetside 3. That is always on the table, that is always being kicked around. That is always an option for them. It just takes the decision makers to decide to do it and to raise the capital to do so. But what I can tell you is investing in Planetside Arena doesn't get you to a Planetside 3 that is a successor to Planetside 1 and Planetside 2. That logic just doesn't follow. Investing in Planetside Arena gets you to future Planetside Arena game modes. It gets you development of the title, it gets you to improvements on the Battle Royale, and yes, it helps get you to Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and a better massive clash. But being really frank here, Planetside 2 was abandoned for H1Z1. It's just the way the winds of the gaming market were blowing. They saw the opportunities and they seized on it. If you're looking for more development or possibly a future title like Planetside 2, an MMO FPS, then the place to put your money is in Planetside 2. If what you really want is to see a Planetside 2 lobby shooter, then the place to invest is in Planetside Arena. What I can tell you for sure is the dollars don't go to the game they want to make. They go to whatever sort of mode seems to be making the most dollars. And there's no path from someone saying, hey, this Planetside Arena game is doing really well. We should take all the profits we're earning from this and invest it into a remastered version of Planetside 1. That's just not how it goes down. Okay, fellow Araxians, that's all I've got for you for right now. With the testing I've done so far, Planetside Arena is really just Planetside Battle Royale. Hopefully as closed beta testing progresses, I can get some more details on additional game modes, and we can talk about Planetside Arena beyond the Battle Royale. That's all for now, all you fellow Araxians and legends out there. Until next time, I will see you Planetside.
You are the Apex Champions.